Oh,
It is Dr. Megan Thomas Hebden and I for another final Facebook
yes.
Live session as we are supporting our HornRaiser. That is a fundraiser to help support a project we're doing called a dual role nurses as family caregivers. Hello, Dr. Hebden.
Hi, Dr. Phillips. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
Great. Yeah. And I just wanted to share. So we feel really good about where we're at with our fundraising. We're not necessarily at our 20,000 goal yet, but there's still a day. So we'll see what happens. But we are at $5,840, which is huge and will be really huge in helping us make some progress with our research project, particularly being able to reach out to nurses and get some preliminary data. And sometimes that's all we really need is just that preliminary data that will allow us to do more research with additional grant funding. So I think we're really grateful for those who have supported our project and supported this initiative to focus on nurses as family caregivers. So thank you.
Absolutely. And, like with the amount that we've raised, like we will be able to start this research, which is so exciting. And so I want all of you to know who have donated. We are so, so grateful for your support. And it's not going to be lost. Like
Yeah.
this amount of money that we've raised, we can now launch this project. And if we're able to raise any more, it just helps us continue to do the next steps. Hitting the $20,000 amount would allow us to pay students to help us, but we understand that that is a very high goal. But I just want you to know that all efforts have not been lost. We're super excited by the amount that we've raised, and the research will begin. We're hoping to start it in January.
Yes, yes. And we're hoping to keep doing this.
Yes.
Well, we realize that this is a great way to spread awareness about the needs of professional and family caregivers. So we hope to continue this, and we'll also be developing a YouTube channel with some of these videos. So for those who have questions or who have a similar story, sometimes it's just really helpful to know you're not alone, that there are others who have walked this journey, and that the challenges you are facing are not, out of the ordinary. And even hearing about how people have coped with those challenges can be really, really helpful. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that the aspect of realizing you're not alone just takes so much of that. I don't know, it's just this weight that you feel lighten when you realize you're not alone in something and whatever it is. I think that is such a meaningful contribution. It's just simply knowing that others have been there with you, and it is very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we got started today, we were hoping to share some statistics with all of you to really highlight the need for this research. And the reality is there just isn't a lot out there. There are a few research studies. A colleague of mine at Purdue University, Jiaying Qi, she has done work with a national organization focused on nurses who are also family caregivers. There's a small study out of Europe that found that a third of nurses are also family caregivers. So we have that much, but we have a lot more to learn. And so we want to build on what is out there. There's a colleague from the University of Utah who's talked about being a professional caregiver and a family caregiver while helping family members transition in the hospital, which can also be really challenging because you're straddling both worlds, right? You're advocating for the person you care for, but you also understand the inner workings of the healthcare system. And so you're trying to balance that role, and that can be really tricky. So we really want to dig deep into the experiences of nurses who are balancing the dual role to understand their needs, both emotionally and financially. And I think we'll probably even find out some other needs. Sometimes you find things you weren't even looking for with research, which is always the really exciting thing about doing it. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, if any of you are just tuning in and just listening, we're in the last day of our HornRaiser campaign to support our project, A Dual Role Nurses as Family Caregivers. And I've dropped the link for the HornRaiser into the chat box. And so, if you see it there, if you're live with us, that's where you can go to donate. If you are seeing this later, we'll go ahead and make sure we also put the link in the Facebook comment section as well. So you can go there. And we have just one more day. I can't remember what time it ends tomorrow, but it's early.
It's December 10th. So it's like just over
so
24
a
hours.
little.
Yeah. So December 10th at 9 a.m.
Okay. So, all right.
So essentially, I think most of us aren't waking up in the morning and thinking, oh yeah, I need to donate. So we'll call it the next 24 hours we have to continue to receive donations. And we're grateful for everyone who's willing to support our project.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And and we were also thinking about what other things would we like to talk about, just to help, raise awareness and just talk about the different strains of caregivers. And one thing that Dr. Hebden, brought up is grief during the holidays. And I wondered if you'd be interested in talking more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of frame what I'll talk about, there was a study that came out in 2020 that found that there were more deaths between Christmas Day and New Year's Day than during any time of the year. So this potentially can be a time where people experience a lot of loss. And then just with significant anniversaries, whether it's the anniversary of a loved one's passing, or like the first birthday or the first Christmas or the first holiday that's really important for an individual and their family and their culture, those can be really, really challenging to navigate, because often with holidays we expect that joy, that celebration, but often with grief you have loss associated with joy, because you remember being with the person that you love, whom you've lost. And so when other people are, experiencing joy and celebration, it can be bittersweet for others. And I think it's important to know that that's really normal. That most people who have experienced a loss will experience grief on these anniversaries or holidays that are important to them. And so I think part of managing that is acknowledging it, that it's normal, that you can feel joy and sorrow at the same time. And that, I think too, sometimes people feel guilty for feeling happy, after a big loss. And I think, my belief is that the people we love care about us, and they pass on, and they want us to be happy too, So I think that that guilt with happiness, we can maybe lift that off of our shoulders. And then the guilt when we're around other people who are happy about feeling sad, we can also take off our shoulders, because that is just part of the human experience.
Yeah.
And for some people, they may need a little extra support and care. So that could be in the form of a support group. It could be in the form of like self-care activities like exercise or meditation, yoga, anything that really helps an individual feel balanced and whole. And then professional support, right? So maybe counseling. And I think if there is really severe challenges that are leading to depression and anxiety, then that's when conversations with a healthcare provider who understands those mental health issues, that can go further as needed. But I think being really aware that that's normal, and that there is help out there, and that often people who have also experienced loss open up when you open up. I found that a lot, that we all have a desire to share our stories and to find people who have felt the things we have felt. And sometimes it's really validating to hear somebody else's story. And so finding people to share with who are also wanting to share, that can be healing too. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think about, a couple different things came to mind as you were talking that, like you grieve because we loved that person, because there's love there. And I think, and then that kind of my mind jumped to, like, we have like love languages, right? But we also,
Mhm.
I think, have grief languages, and we all talk about and express grief differently. And I think that even within units, that while you're together during the holidays, so family units, I think that could, I imagine it could be hard that you're celebrating, you're in a holiday group setting, but then you all have different ways of expressing grief. And I think that just like what you have shared is just, I think just being honest and open is just really, it's harder than it sounds. It's super simple to say,
Yeah,
much harder than it sounds, but I think that it just opens up the ability for others to express themselves too. And so it's finding strength in that vulnerability, and that can be really healing for a group and a unit.
yeah, absolutely. And I think for people who haven't experienced loss, it can be really hard to know how to respond. And so, just if you're on the other side of that equation and trying to be a support person for somebody who is grieving during the holidays or who is navigating loss, often all you need to do is just be there,
Yeah.
and just listen. And often it's not a problem that needs to be solved. It's just that person needs a little space to share and needs validation that it's okay to be sad. And maybe there are other things, if you know that person well, that will brighten their day. And so trying to be thoughtful about how to do that for people. One thing that's just kind of been my guide as I've tried to support people as a nurse is just, kind of that putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Like, how would I feel here? And even communicating with people. Like, all you have to say is, I'm so sorry that you are going through this,
Yeah.
and I am here for you. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. It just needs to be an acknowledgement of their pain, and that you're there and that you care about them. And often that's all we really need
Yeah.
is to know that there are people who will be there for us.
Yeah. I think that what you said, like, there's not that you don't have to have an answer, and it's actually probably better that you don't. You're
Yeah.
right. Like, it's not something that needs to be fixed. It's an experience, and it is something that needs to be talked about.
Mhm.
Another phrase that I really like is grief is better out than in. And I think that that's just really important to be able to express it and to get it out. Is really the healthiest way to cope with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to go back to that thought that you shared, that grief is a form of love, right?
Mhm.
So when we grieve, it's because we have love for the person that we've lost. And sometimes that grief can be complicated.
Mhm.
Sometimes, I think we're all humans, so we're not perfect. So sometimes we can love somebody whom we've lost, but also have complicated feelings about that too. And I think all of that, just knowing that that's really normal and natural, and that, there are people out there who are experts on navigating grief. And so reaching out to them, and again, support groups, and having trusted individuals in your life with whom you can share. Um, and I just wanted to share something that happened this week with Dr. Phillips. We're writing an article focused on financial well-being for caregivers. And I was sharing a really vulnerable story about my own financial challenges with being a caregiver. And with the group, like, we were talking more about like the technical aspects of the article, where to send it, just like fixing the basics. But it was really nice that I felt safe,
Mhm.
comfortable communicating with Dr. Phillips that this was really hard for me to share, that it was placing a lot of emotional strain on me. And so, And it was so nice because she validated that, and so sometimes I think that's all it is just having the courage to say, this is really hard for me.
Yeah.
And, having people in your life like I have with this research collaboration with Dr. Phillips, where I can say things like that and have that support.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm so glad I could be there for you in that
Yeah.
moment, for sure. And this has just been such a delightful collaboration. We've only known each other for 3 months, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a match made in heaven. It's
Yes.
we are very fortunate to get to work together and to do this project together. And so on that lovely note, I think that we could sign off for today and just say thank you to all of those who have supported us up to this point. We have almost hit 6,000. It'd be awesome to hit 6,000 by the end of the day, as our HornRaiser will expire within the next roughly 24 hours. And we are just grateful for your support. We will keep this going, and we, no matter what, are starting this research project, and we will be so excited to share our progress along the way.
Yes.
So
Thank you, everybody.
Yes. All right. Well, take care to all of you. Be
Bye.
well.
Thank you.